like to start off by saying it is indeed a great honor to be able to stand here on the 9th anniversary of Benola. An idea that started when friends started to talk to me in 2010 about what I could doing something to add to value in Nigeria, because they saw that I was passionate about things ranging from security, aviation, disaster management, and even health. So they felt I could be contributing my quota to the development of Nigeria and our youths. There was also the fact that after 35 years of active service in Nigerian Air Force, where I distinguished myself as a qualified instructor pilot and moderator at our highest military training institutions, it just was not right for me to sit back and do nothing. But the truth is that I wasn't really doing nothing. I was making up for lost time by spending quality time with my family and son Olaoluwa, who's living with cerebral palsy, who had been cared for virtually alone for 12 years by his mother while I was serving in different parts of the country. To enable me to do this and still be engaged, I considered a teaching appointment at Lagos Business School. And to prove my eligibility to the doubting in management, I elected to attend a course, which is the Owner Management Course 15. Even though I was not running a business, they were gracious enough to accept me. And so that's how I started to do one or two things. But about that same time, we secured, after so many attempts, an opportunity to take Olaoluwa to India to correct a bad case of scoliosis of the spine and stiffness of his limbs, which made basic things like wearing his clothes, especially trousers, especially difficult. This resulted in a near 5-month stay at Fortis Hospital, Bangalore, where together with his mother, we got to learn a lot about management of complex aspects of cerebral palsy and other conditions like kidney transplant, etc. Subsequently, I attended the 6-month course at Lagos Business School, where my biggest takeaways were financial management and branding. Thereafter, I started getting invitations to speak at workshops and training sessions. But to my surprise, despite rave reviews by participants, I was not getting repeat invites, which became a cause of concern until a friend confided in me that my lack of a recognized academic qualification, like maybe master's or doctor's degree, or even a clear brand of my own, was the problem, as it was difficult for people to put me as a resource person on some of the programs and all that we're doing. He then recommended that I create my own platform for where I would be better known for certain things. And so we did some brainstorming and tried to identify an area where I felt I could add real value. I recognize that when it comes to security, there are hundreds of retired generals and senior military officers who can speak on the issue of security. The same thing with various other aspects. But when it comes to disability, particularly cerebral palsy, I stand in a unique gap as someone who has been in the military, somebody who's not a medical doctor, but somebody who has had hands-on training in the management of a child with cerebral palsy, with 16 years experience top down my spine. When you look at my wife, that means that between us, we had over 32 years experience in this unique situation. And that's why we took on cerebral palsy. But I also made it clear to my friends that at my age and that of my wife, we were not best suited to run either a home or, shall we say, a school for special kids. In addition, having had the opportunity to visit several such institutions in different parts of the country, we were of the opinion that a lot of these homes were not providing the best of care for these children, while many of the schools, due to poor or inadequate manpower, were falling short of their stated objectives. That was when my friend suggested that advocacy was a vital area that lacking attention, and which we could use my background experience to get into. In fact, as of 2013, one could hardly find the picture of a Nigerian child with cerebral palsy on social media, and there was little or no discussion about it on those platforms. There and then, we decided to focus on advocacy, raising awareness about cerebral palsy, providing information about the condition, and of course, helping to build capacity for healthcare workers, parents, and even referring affected children or their parents to places where they could find better management options. At our first public presentation on the 26th, of February 2013, I remember telling an audience that the Benola vision for cerebral palsy and disability management in Africa was a journey that was sure to go wide. How far and how wild was anyone's guess. But parents, caregivers, healthcare professionals, the general public, and the media needed to brace themselves for something refreshingly new. Therefore, we took necessary measures to build our own capacity. And even went to the extent of traveling outside the country to attend international conferences. To start with, we organized the first cerebral palsy conference in Nigeria, in Lagos in April 2022, which, with the help of a consultant, we brought 28 experts from about 12 Nigerian institutions of higher learning, namely universities, polytechnics, etc. We had experts in special education, the field of medicine, therapy, and of course, a few government agencies, including the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, which still oversees disability affairs at the national level, and some representatives of Lagos State, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, etc. Some of the international conferences included one we had of England, Newcastle, England, Vienna, Austria, and then San Diego, California, in the United States. From the first workshop, which went very well, we realized that being the only parents involved, information about how the condition affects a diverse range of CP parents was needed if we were to come up with a holistic picture of CP in Nigeria. Therefore, we came up with the idea of hosting a national cerebral palsy forum where parents could learn firsthand from experts and hopefully share their own experiences. And with the help of our friends in the media and through social media platforms, we were able to bring together parents from places as far as Sokoto, Kaduna, Abuja, Jos, Port Harcourt, Minna, etc., who participated actively in the event, which subsequently turned into an annual one. We learned a lot from this first event and subsequently used it as a platform to deliberate on nagging questions, bedeviling parents by resourcing experts to deliver papers on topics ranging from cerebral palsy, the stigma, the fear, the realities, the many faces of cerebral palsy, the realities of aging with cerebral palsy, etc. Apart from helping to broaden our knowledge, the papers, all of which included PowerPoint presentations, are posted on our website for the benefit of those seeking to add value and knowledge on the subject. As we came up with these things, we succeeded in getting experts to deliver these papers, and our resource page on our website started to grow, and so did the number of visitors to this page. From day one, we also recognized the relevance of the media and social media platforms in getting the word out. So we started a vibrant website, searched all over the internet, got information about CP, which we then posted on our website and social media platforms, with the result that within a couple of years, Benola's website became the most sought after website on cerebral palsy because the information there is easy to access, free to download, and including every lecture that we have sponsored today. We have been providing unique services like one-on-one counseling for parents of CP children and adults who will be living with cerebral palsy, which is very interesting because most of them at that time did not know anyone who they could meet to really talk about issues. Yes, there are homes, yes, there are schools, but the emphasis seemed to be about bringing the children for management at those sources. In fact, we know a couple of homes or schools where parents were not even allowed to get into the training environment, like the classrooms and so on. You just have a reception area where your children are taken from you, and you come back later and you collect the children and take them home. And so with those kind of situations, it's not easy for them to discuss their own personal problems, their own perceptions about CP and what they have. In fact, we have had adults who have gone on to marry, have children, get good jobs, record outstanding academic performances, etc. While many of them have tended to leave us after an average of 3 years. With Benola, a couple of them continue to be proud ambassadors, like Busola Akinsola that we have here, and Ambassador Uche on the plateau, who is in Jos, and continues to spread the word about cerebral palsy and Benola in Abuja, Jos, and the whole plateau axis. For those who have opted to move on, we continue monitoring them on social media and are proud of their achievements and contributions to the body of knowledge about cerebral palsy and disability management in this part of the world. The question of building a center, a purpose-built facility for Benola, has been a nagging one since 2014, after we published the findings of our series of workshops and conferences on cerebral palsy, which we aptly titled Benola's Roadmap for Cerebral Palsy and Disability Management in Nigeria. One major aspect of the roadmap was Benola's guidance and reference pathway for management of cerebral palsy in Nigeria, a pathway which can easily be adopted for virtually every child with disability. Subsequently, we commissioned architects who came up with a design based on our specifications, but after the bill of quantities and relevant 3D drawings, it quickly became clear that we would need a lot more awareness for us to secure the support needed to build the Benola Center as envisioned to us, a place where parents would visit for assessment, therapy, and learn about better management options for their children or adults living with cerebral palsy, rather than a permanent residence or respite center for affected children and adults or a school for special children. Unfortunately, despite 9 years of advocating about the importance of raising children in loving home environments, what one still finds is a deep-seated mindset among Nigerians that management of special children should be all about places where they could stay in what would amount to homes away from home. After the initial drawings, which we completed in 2015, the Benola Center was further redesigned and scaled downwards, first in 2017 and recently in 2021. One of our objectives has been to share the Benola vision before those who either make policy or are in a position to influence changes in policy. And one of our highest successes in this regard occurred in October 2017, when the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, agreed to deliver the keynote address at our first annual World CP Day lecture. The event attracted the cream of the society and was covered widely by the media, organizations like channels, television, etc. Following this successful event, which put cerebral palsy on the center stage in Nigeria, we started to see a surge in the number of individuals and organizations championing cerebral palsy. But while we witnessed increases in awareness, we also started seeing lots of individuals talking about CP, therapists offering all kinds of cures, parents who are willing to spend their last couple on miracle cures, adults living with cerebral palsy promoting themselves as either CP champions or experts, and various groups who now see CP as a means to making money. The reasons being that everyone has come to the realization that children with CP are highly intelligent. And though they may have difficulties in walking or even speech, given the right conditions, they could exploit their innate intelligence and be able to interact positively with other members of society and contribute their quota to the development of our great nation. This is quite interesting, particularly when one considers the fact that with over 70 million people worldwide living with cerebral palsy, the situation in Nigeria is that we have an estimated 700 children with cerebral palsy, with no less than 80,000 of them living in Lagos State alone. But you don't see them because many of them are quietly tucked away in their homes or in special homes that do not yet understand the power of advocacy to make their case and to draw support. In fact, we continuously run into parents or even adults with CP, I would say mild CP, who don't even know the true conditions that they're living with. And it is only after maybe a visit to a health center, after maybe some illness, that they finally get to know that they're having CP. With some of them saying, I discovered my CP at 20, 25, and so on. But that is not the case. Because cerebral palsy, just like autism, presents in many shapes and colors, meaning one cannot find two individuals with cerebral palsy displaying the same physical attributes. Those who we are likely to find in special homes can best be referred to as bad cases, which explains why such children in loving home environments show slight and are still able to walk or go to school, etc., are not seen by their parents as having CP. Thankfully, things are becoming clear to everyone. In the process of doing this work, we have met notable Nigerians, top government officials, heads of corporate organizations, small business owners, proprietors of schools, members of church community, and even young children. And we have learned a lot about their own limitations as is concerned CSR towards NGOs like Benola and less privileged communities, which is mainly that multinationals have their CSR policy defined by their foreign headquarters, most of who place emphasis on life-threatening issues like Ebola, HIV/AIDS, the coronavirus, and others like malaria, girl-child issues like education, gender violence, and displaced persons. So with cerebral palsy not being contagious, infectious, etc., it is safe to say that we are facing an uphill task with this kind of organizations. Nonetheless, I would like to state clearly that the stress, mental, physical, and financial involved in managing CP children and adults is tremendous. In fact, when we first started talking about CP in 2013, and right then we identified depression as being one of the major problems impacting on the lives of parents of children and adults living with CP. Explains cases of infanticide, child and spouse abuse, as well as early breakup of marriages that are steadily on the increase. And as I pointed to this fact, out of 2,000 plus CP parents that I have personally spoken with, more than 70% of them are single mothers, with some being as young as 20, 21 years old, simply because the man or his family are unable to cope or accept the fact that the child with CP, who in their own view is not going to be useful to society, should continue to affect the man's growth. Here again, I would like to re-emphasize the fact that in the last 6 to 7 years, we have identified numerous such adults and lots of young adults showing tremendous academic capabilities. Some have completed the WAEC with flying colors, scaled through JAM, secured university admissions, and a number of them are now graduates, with some even having second degrees, like masters and so on. And they're contributing their quota to the betterment of the society. However, we're saddened by the fact that most parents of such gifted children are still unwilling to come out and celebrate them, and following the success and the positive comments of the public-spirited individuals to Benola's advocacy effort in this regard. In the last 18 months, I'm glad to say that we're beginning to see positive changes, because some of these young adults and even the much older ones with cerebral palsy have taken the law into things into their own hands, and they're telling their stories, shooting videos, posting them on social media, and they're making waves. Going forward, the issue of the stigma is still very high out there, affecting parents, family members, and the general community with devastating effects. And unless we do something to correct this, no matter how well the CP child is doing, the parents will still refuse to identify with them. In addition, members of the public who are now acknowledging the potential of these children, special ones, need to be guided as to the proper way to support them to ensure they get the opportunities to further their education and get the best job placement opportunities later on in life. Because if those things that those of them that have graduated are not adequate, or the ones that are doing well in secondary school fail to get sponsorship to go further, parents of younger CP children will continue to be discouraged from expending valuable time, energy, and resources towards their education. The way forward. For parents, one of the major findings from our 9 years of interacting with CP parents is that children with CP need to thrive better in loving, tend to thrive better in loving home environments. This is why we continue to preach that such children should stay at home with their parents. Of course, we recognize that most parents are cash-strapped and are having difficulties in meeting the immediate needs for proper care of their children. And apart from medications and therapy, there is a daily requirement for diapers, wipes, soft food items, etc., which most parents, especially our single mothers, some of who are unable to leave their children and go to work, are having extreme difficulty in meeting. However, through one-on-one counseling sessions, either in person or via telephone, we have been able to convince a number of them of the need to start seeing their special children as opportunities to start unique services like daycare, or even advocacy outfits through which they will begin to either provide services to use their knowledge gained from managing their children to educate other parents and even earn income. In fact, we continue to emphasize the fact that CP parents who have professional jobs or some good income source should not just sit at home and take care of their children. Rather, they should source for suitable daycare centers where they can leave the children for a few hours and get on with their lives. What we consider most important in this respect is that, first of all, there must be acceptance in the home, where the parents get to know the condition of their child, which is cerebral palsy, and as much as possible, the options available for managing the child living with that condition. Thereafter, they should start practicing what we also call inclusion in the home, where instead of hiding the child away, particularly when visitors come to the home, they start involving him or her in everything they do in the home, so that siblings and family and any visitor that comes gets to understand these vital issues, that cerebral palsy is not infectious, it is not contagious, and begin to see the positive side of this children. The next step is to start practicing disclosure. First of all, in the home, where every visitor who gets to meet and interact with the child is given an opportunity to understand cerebral palsy. And this is when parents need to begin to focus on what the child can do and begin to share the wonderful things that their children can do, no matter how simple it is, even if it is just to blow a kiss or a smile, because I find that too many parents spend all their time talking about negatives. The first thing they tell you is, my child cannot do this, my child cannot do this. And hey, there are many people who cannot do a lot of things, but they've been able to surmount those limitations and become super, actors in this scheme of life. So you should also take them to public places, family gatherings, and social events where, they use every opportunity to explain the child's condition. For this to happen, parents must understand the need for and provide high standards of hygiene in their homes and around the child, so that the child is not a source of inconvenience to other people. Once they cross this stage, then they move to the final stage, which is inclusion in the community, which is where advocacy proper starts to ensure that access is provided. Conveniences for special people, walkways, ramps, transportation, etc. is made available in general supply within the community. For adults living with cerebral palsy, what I have come to realize is that those who are either well-educated or have attained a decent level of independent living have gone through a lot in the hands of family, friends, and colleagues, to the point where they were pushed to do things which might have looked like punishment. But because of that, they are where they are today. Unfortunately, some of them who face rejection and have now to prove themselves as being where they find themselves before they finally accepted and started making friends, have turned up in their adulthood to be hardened. And they rarely trust anybody who tries to be friendly with them, to the extent that they see others as people to be exploited for their own interests. And when one tries to give them or guide them in the direction other than that, which what they're already doing, they tend to revolt and start distancing themselves. So I want this group of individuals to understand that learning is a continuous practice. Growth has no limit. And for as long As we have the capacity and potential, we must continue to accept positive criticism for what it is. It means to keep driving us to find the best or to be the best of ourselves, thereby achieving a lot more than most people expect. In other words, they should stay open to criticism, um, not to tell their stories in a positive way. And this also goes to CP parents because it is by sharing our unique stories, whether it is about stigma, outright rejection, etc., that others will get to understand what we have gone through and how they can become what we call co-laborers in our unique journeys through life. For corporate organizations, in my interactions with corporate organizations, I found that they all have fixed mindset as to how to support the disabled or less privileged in society, which which also includes getting some mileage for their corporate image, which is okay. But if the end product is all about innovating a home or special school or simply pushing for the establishment of more homes, then they are failing to recognize the fact that these children, like I said earlier, thrive best in home environments. And the main reason why most parents either abandon their special children or place them in these homes is lack of resources to do the needful. This is where advocacy plays a major role. And in changing the mindset of everyone and opening the door for government and private sector organizations to engage meaningfully with such parents. So rather than focus all attention for your training needs on motivational speakers who will help raise the bottom line, it is time to start talking about family-related issues like special needs children. And if not properly managed, could have serious negative impact on staff productivity and ultimately the overall. With a proper understanding of how disability affects your staff, management will be in a better position to mitigate and provide people-friendly solutions, which would end up benefiting everyone, including members of the immediate community. In 2011, the government of Lagos State set the ball rolling with its special persons law, which led to the establishment of Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs, NASODA. Other states soon followed suit, while the administration of President Muhammad Buhari moved things a notch higher with the appointment in 2016 of vision impaired gentleman as Special Advisor on Disability Affairs. This was followed in January 2019 with Mr. President's signing of the 2018 Special Persons Bill into law, and subsequently the establishment of a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities headed by a seven-man governing council. However, not much has happened in the disability space since then, and there is much to be done, especially where it concerns the rising spate of abuse, where just about every therapist is now an expert providing specialized services, including which urgently needs to be regulated if they are not to great damage to some of the students. There are lots of videos online where parents and therapists, while performing physio or others exercises, are seen forcing children who are in obvious discomfort to walk, stand, and do all kinds of things that may be detrimental to their health in the long term. So we need regulation and standards in place to ensure that everyone is doing the right thing. If you ask about who has responsibility for disability law, at the federal level, states and local governments, there is confusion as to who handles disability. We have Ministry of Health, Social Services, Education, Finance, Works, etc. And it's quite a problem. And the solution really is to understand that disability is such a big thing on its own. that we need to have an independent government agency dedicated to it, which will have its own departments of health, special education, social service, and all grouped in there. And right from the office of Mr. President and stakeholders, there should be a clear understanding of disability and the right management options for each disability, particularly childhood disabilities, developmental disabilities, so that only the right structures are in place. For example, where parents are concerned, government needs to understand the deficiency in funding to meet the requirement of the law which provides free medical care for children under 5. Part of the problem, to my mind, is lack of data with which to plan. To stem this deficiency, we must create a people-friendly structure around healthcare where mother and child issues get the bright attention, and every mother is encouraged to register her child at birth or at first hospital visitation. The general public. I think the main deficiency affecting members of the public is centered around lack of adequate knowledge about childhood disabilities like cerebral palsy. Therefore, we need mass mobilization of the people through awareness campaigns, which can be organized by the National Inclusion Agency and the media organization, both public and private. We also need workshops organized by government and private sector organizations in partnership with specialized nonprofit organizations like Benola. It will also help them to have a better understanding of the needs out there and how they can effectively partner with NGOs to better serve the affected groups. So far, we have succeeded in doing this with some of the Rotary clubs in Lagos and Ghana, who have supported our CP wheelchair drive by reaching the families through us, because the donations made to Benola are branded by them, and the beneficiaries got to know about Rotary, who facilitated the donation. As far as awareness of the public is concerned, it is something that we should start like yesterday, because no matter what is done to provide free services, therapy, healthcare, or even free transportation for affected families and adults, if the public continue to show hostility towards them, chances are that on getting them, mothers of CP children particularly will stop going out with their children. This is out of fear that what you do not know can be scary, like a child that drools or suddenly has a seizure attack, can cause chaos to those around, some of whom may have been conditioned to see certain developments as spiritual attacks. There are also those who think the CP child's saliva could be contagious, or that the condition itself could infect them or affect them. But with the right level of awareness, this fear will diminish, and we'll begin to see more individuals who will gladly assist mothers of CP children whenever and wherever they need help, while neighbors will start reaching out to families around them who need help in one form or another. Conclusion. Like I said to the audience at our first public presentation on the 26th of February 2013, the Benola journey has been highly interesting. Of course, there have been disappointments along the way, but honestly, the lessons that we have learned along the way, the people that we have met, especially those who have gone out of their way to support us, has opened their hearts to us and shared heartwarming stories, have made it more than worth it. We're definitely not where we expected to be in 2013. But when one looks back at stories on our social media platforms, we see clearly through numerous parents and adults in cerebral palsy who are now sharing their stories with the world, the therapists who are providing the right services, and those who are training others the right way. And the fact that Benola remains the #1 go-to site on Google when searching for CP in Africa. We give God the glory and believe that we have indeed made a remarkable difference in the disability industry. Going forward, we still have our hearts set on building a center for cerebral palsy and assistive technology. But for that to happen, we must succeed in changing the current mindset of our disability management and get those who can help us build the center to understand the relevance of advocacy in reaching a much wider public. So when we come to you requesting to speak to your staff or management team, please understand that it's not about asking for a donation, but a desire to add to the body of Nigerians who are well informed about cerebral palsy and modern trends in disability management, and understand as well as God's admonition for us to take care of this. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has ever been there, because honestly, speaking, you are the reason why Benola is still standing. Your financial support, words of encouragement, and so on have kept us going, and we continue to pray for God's richest blessings upon your life. Before I close, I want to just use this chart here, which I found recently being used by a gentleman who was trying to raise awareness about Black businesses in America working together. Like I said, we now have a lot of people talking about cerebral palsy. Unfortunately, they're working alone. Cerebral palsy brought awareness about World CP Day to Nigerians in 2013. By 2016, many organizations started coming out to do something about World CP Day. But every attempt to say, look, let's do something together on this day, kept falling on deaf ears. And you see, no matter how many of us are out there talking about CP, childhood disabilities, or disability generally, the only way that we can have the right impact or a greater impact on government, the private sector, and the general community is to come together and form something like a pilot spider as well. In this kind of situation, we're still in our own little cocoons, doing our own thing. But because we reach out to each other, because we look for opportunities like special days, like World CP Day, like World Autism Day, like Down Syndrome Day, and so on, to collaborate and become a huge voice, a huge force talking about these issues, we are bound to have a much larger impact. This is why spiders, as tiny as they are, can use their web to trap very, very big prey, and so on. So please let us think about it. And I want to assure you that the potential to achieve more is still out there, and opportunities to help are tremendous. So please partner with us, partner with them, and together let us keep changing the face of cerebral palsy and disability management in Nigeria and the entire African continent. Thank you.